Hello, my name is Susanna, and I am 26 years old. I want to share with you my story about an episode of infidelity that turned out to be quite unusual and surprising. Everything in my life took an unexpected turn after a fortuitous encounter with my dear friend Lola. It was a typical Sunday afternoon, one of those where the bustling city seems to come to a complete stop, immersing itself in an almost surreal calm. We had agreed to meet at her cozy apartment to catch up, share anecdotes, and enjoy a delicious cup of coffee. My boyfriend Miguel Lola and I met at university, and since then, we have been inseparable. We love spending time together, whether it is hiking in the mountains or simply enjoying an afternoon of movies at home. Our friendship is very important to me, and I am grateful for it. Having them in my life. She is a truly amazing person. She has always been the center of attention at our meetings with her contagious laugh and her natural charm that lights up any environment she is in. She is also a lesbian, something I always knew but never imagined would have such a significant impact on our emotional connection and the dynamics of our relationship. That wonderful afternoon, as we shared laughter and deep conversations about various topics, I was pleasantly surprised to notice small details in her personality that had previously gone unnoticed by me, the way her silky hair fell gracefully over her delicate shoulders, the intense light that shone in her deep Balana eyes when she was passionately telling a captivating story. Those small details began to captivate me in a completely new and disconcerting. I experienced a deep feeling of bewilderment and an intense interest that was impossible to ignore. Several days went by, and those thoughts persisted. On the contrary, they intensified notably. Recently, I began to experience romantic and emotional fantasies with women, which represents a significant change in my life. The idea filled me with a strange and contradictory emotion, a mixture of fear and excitement that kept me in suspense. I knew with certainty that I needed to start a conversation with someone I absolutely trusted, and the only person who fit that profile perfectly was my dear friend Lola. I called her one night when insomnia and restlessness took over my being, preventing me from falling asleep. I told her, visibly nervous about the thoughts that tormented me, and asked her with curiosity how it had been for her discover and accept her orientation towards women. Her response at that moment reflected an interesting combination of sincerity, honesty, and a pinch of tenderness. She spoke to me in detail about her adolescence, of the many occasions in which she felt hopelessly attracted to a girl, and the complex way in which she had faced and managed her own fantasies and desires. It was as if suddenly a wide and luminous window had opened before my eyes to an unknown part of her life, a chapter that she had never before had the opportunity to explore in its entirety. She realized that the questions I was asking her were not the typical ones, and decided to investigate a little more about it. "What is wrong with you?" she said with a mocking smile. "Maybe you started to like women." Her tone was playful, but her words left me breathless. I felt a warmth up my neck and my cheeks. I didn't know what to say, so I just didn't answer. "You don't have to tell me anything. If you don't want," she said, changing tone when she noticed my discomfort. "I just want you to know that you can count on me for whatever." I thanked her, and we cut the call. From that day we got closer. She was very intrigued by that call, and since then she was more attentive to me. After a few days, she invited me to have coffee that day while we were talking. She put her hand on mine, something common when we talk with our friends. Only that day, my confusion increased. I no longer saw my friend. Anyway, things were happening to me. I was feeling things. While she talked about her plans for the weekend, my mind wandered, thinking about what I felt. The warmth of her hand on mine was comforting, but also, it sparked something inside me that I couldn't ignore. I began to wonder if she felt something too, if that closeness was more than friendship for both of us. At the end of our coffee, we said goodbye with a hug as always. However, this time the hug felt different, more intimate, more meaningful. I walked home with a mixture of emotions and thoughts, trying to process what was happening inside me that same night. As I got ready to rest, my mind filled with detailed memories of all the experiences lived throughout the day, meticulously reviewing each conversation, each facial expression, and each action. I realized that little by little, I was beginning to perceive my friend. from a perspective completely different from the usual one. I had not the slightest idea of what the true meaning of that situation was for our friendship relationship. However, I was completely determined to unravel analyzing each detail meticulously. I knew with certainty that I was not alone in this journey of life, and that I had her unshakable support. That deep certainty that I felt inside me gave me the necessary strength to continue advancing, to enter into the deepest of my emotions, and to finally embrace and welcome with love this unexpected and revealing facet of my being. During the weeks that followed, we experienced a roller coaster of mixed emotions and feelings. Every time I met Lola, I sensed an atmosphere charged with a tension that I had never before experienced in our meetings. We saw each other with the same frequency, but our conversations seemed deeper, more meaningful. My mind was filled with questions and thoughts that I could not set aside. One day, while we were walking through the park, I dared to approach the subject again. We had been talking about our experiences in adolescence, and the conversation turned to personal discovery. "Do you remember when we spoke on the phone the other night?" I asked her, trying to sound casual. "Clear why you say that," she answered, looking at me with curiousness. I took a breath, feeling the knot in my stomach. Since then, I have not been able to stop thinking about some things. It is complicated. I have been feeling different, and I don't know how to handle it. She looked at me with a mix of tenderness and concern. "Different?" How she asked softly. I stopped and turned to her, trying to find the right words. "I think I'm realizing that maybe I like women, or at least I'm starting to feel attracted to them, and I don't know what to do with these feelings." There was a charged silence as her words hung in the air. Her expression changed from surprise to understanding, and then a soft smile appeared on her lips. "It's completely normal to feel confused," she said, coming closer and taking my hands. "The important thing is that you allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling without judging yourself. I'm here for you, no matter what you discover about yourself." I felt a surge of relief and excitement. Hearing her words, I nodded, feeling a burden lifted my shoulders. "Thank you," you murmur eyes. "You don't know how much it means to me that you are here." We hugged, and I felt something settle inside me, as if I was finally accepting a part of my identity that had been hidden. From that moment on, our relationship became even closer. We began to spend more time together, talking openly about our feelings and experiences. One afternoon, while we were watching a movie in her apartment, I noticed that our bodies were closer than usual. I felt her warmth next to me, and every little touch sent a current of electricity. My heart was beating strongly, and I wondered if she felt the same too. The movie ended, but neither of us moved. We stayed silent for a moment before she turned to me. "Do you feel okay?" she asked, her eyes full of concern. I nodded slowly, but my words wouldn't come out. Instead of speaking, I leaned towards her and kissed her. It was a soft, exploratory kiss, but full of emotion and meaning. She responded with the same tenderness, and I felt like the world stopped. When we both separated, we were out of breath. She looked at me with a mix of surprise and joy. "Are you sure about this?" she asked in a whisper. "Yes," I answered, without hesitation. "I want to explore this with you." From that moment on, our relationship took a new and exciting turn. We began dating, discovering together this new aspect of our connection. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt and fear, but also of incredible happiness and realization. Our friendship transformed into something deeper and meaningful, and I felt like I was finally embracing a part of myself that had been repressed for a long time. The following days were filled with more frequent messages and calls. We texted from morning to night, sharing every little detail of our day. Each message from him made me smile, and my heart beat faster with each notification. His words were sweet, filled with a tenderness that made me feel special and understood. Our encounters also became more meaningful. We found ourselves in new and exciting places, exploring corners of the city that we had previously overlooked. We walked through parks, visited museums, and sat in cafes for hours talking about our dreams and fears. Every moment together felt like a new adventure, and with each passing day, my love for her grew. I remember one afternoon in particular when I decided to have a picnic in a nearby park. The sun was shining softly, and a cool breeze made everything feel perfect. We sat on a blanket surrounded by flowers and trees and ate while talking and laughing. At one point, she laid down next to me, her fingers playing with mine, and I felt a peace and happiness I had never experienced before. It was at that moment that I realized how deeply in love I was with her. Our encounters became more intimate as well. She made me feel safe and loved in a way I had never felt before. Her unconditional support and understanding were a balm for my soul, and I knew I could be completely myself with her one night. After a romantic dinner at her house, we were sitting on the couch, and the conversation arose. We had cooked together, laughing and joking in the kitchen, enjoying every moment we shared. The dinner had been delicious. But more than the food, it was the company. What made it special after eating? We snuggled up on the couch with a blanket covering us and a glass of wine in our hands. The atmosphere was perfect calm and full of a palpable intimacy. We looked at each other and I felt like I could lose myself in her gaze forever. It was at that moment that she, with a mixture of seriousness and tenderness, asked me, "What are you going to do with your boyfriend?" I felt a knot in my stomach. When hearing the question, I knew it was something I had to face. But the idea of hurting him distressed me. I don't know. I admitted feeling vulnerable. I don't want to hurt, but I can't keep pretending that everything is okay. What I feel for you is real, and I can't ignore it. She took my hand, her look full of understanding. You have to be honest with him and with yourself. It's not fair for either of us to continue like this. I nodded, knowing he was right. It wouldn't be easy, but it was necessary. I decided to talk to him the next day. I asked him to meet in a quiet cafe far from any distraction. When he arrived, I could see the worry on his face. I didn't know how to start. So I just went direct. "Miguel, we need to talk," I said, taking his hands in mine. "I have been going through a process of personal discovery, and I have realized that my feelings have changed." He looked at me with a mix of confusion and fear. "What do you mean?" asked, his voice trembling slightly. I took a breath, feeling the weight of my words. "I think I like women. I have been feeling attracted to someone else, and I can't continue with our relationship knowing that I'm not being honest with you or with myself." There was a long silence. I could see the sadness and disappointment in his eyes, but also a spark of understanding. "I appreciate your honesty," he said finally. "This is not easy to hear, but I understand that you need to follow your own path. I just hope that you find what you are looking for and that you are happy." We hugged each other tightly, and in that moment I could perceive an intense mix of relief and sadness that invaded my being. It was not an easy separation, but it turned out to be essential, so that both of us could move forward and continue with our lives individually. When returning home, I decided I wanted to communicate with Lola to tell her in detail everything that had happened during my journey. She listened to me attentively and gave me her unconditional support, as she has always done. I knew perfectly well that the path that lay ahead of me would not be at all easy, but I was completely prepared to face any challenge that might arise, being completely certain that I had the company of someone who not only understood me perfectly, but who also accepted me in my entirety, with all my virtues and defects together in a joint manner. We continued exploring and discovering more about our connection, deepening our self-knowledge and the meaning of love, building step by step something truly beautiful and genuine. Thank you for listening to this exciting story. If you want to continue enjoying and exploring other exciting stories, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. Click on the subscribe button to receive updates on our upcoming stories. We look forward to seeing you in our next video, where we will continue sharing stories that inspire and move you.